Gun Violence in America by Haley Kidd. So, for introduction, America was built on the Second Amendment. This was the right to bear arms. Illicit use of guns has caused many psychological problems. Studies have shown individuals who participate in the misuse of a gun is suffering psychologically themselves. These horrific crimes are happening every day. And because of this, there needs to be a complete understanding how these criminals are obtaining these guns and misusing them. If law officials do not decrease the amount of abuse, American citizens will continue to suffer and be devastated by their country. So, history of gun violence. The first gun was made in China in the 10th century. Guns contained bamboo tubes, gunpowder, and projectile spears. By the end of the 13th century, metal guns were formed, and during the 14th century, gunpowder was advancing and firearms spread worldwide. These weapons reached America in 1607 when the Pilgrims arrived, and by 1791, firearms were legal and written into the Constitution. So, some more history of gun violence. Taking away gun rights would also be violating individual rights. For legal gun owners, they should not be punished because of ones who decide to go against the law. These people have gone through hours of safety and months of sustaining a good record. Instead, researchers should focus on how these guns are being sold illegally on our streets. When it comes to gun abuse, many believe gun control would be most beneficial. Gun control is the act of restricting any use of firearms from being used or owned, and in society, this is a highly controversial topic. So, some theories related to gun violence. The number one is lack of safety. Another reason for abusing guns is because individuals do not properly understand the responsibility of owning a gun. Guns are not being locked away correctly. Minors or other individuals are accessing these guns, and sometimes the owner doesn't even know. So, there is a required safety course. Individuals must go through a safety course when purchasing a gun. This course includes how to properly handle a firearm when transporting, storing, and firing. So, after taking the test and the individual does pass, they can legally own a gun, but this still doesn't stop illegal guns from being used or sold on our streets. Another theory related to gun violence, this is a pretty major one, is mental illness. So, going along with firearms being illegally owned, they are also getting in the hands of minors and mentally unstable individuals. America has faced many mass shootings. Schools are being the main target. Mentally unstable children are accessing these guns and taking them to schools. And because they're using them out of pure rage and depression, it is devastating. Studies have shown that most mass shooters have some type of mental illness. These individuals could be undergoing treatment or have not been diagnosed yet. And these studies show that the society is lacking education on how serious mental health is. So the first literature review is a tri-vector model. So in this model, it includes three vectors that are used for potential issues to influence these rare individuals. These are developmental, cultural, and social. So for mass shootings, many are caused from an individual who feels left out and wants revenge. This shows that there needs to be a push on mental health. So taking away these guns would help in decreasing the amount of shootings, but these mentally unstable individuals would just use a different weapon. This makes many believe that guns are the problem, but most do not take into account the individual using the gun is unstable due to these vectors. So another one is mental illness and mass shootings. So it is clear that mental health plays a significant role in the violence we see in America. Studies have shown a strive on research about how these guns are getting into the possession of the wrong individuals. They focused on mental illnesses like bipolar, schizophrenia, and major depression. While looking at the mass shooting in America, they saw mental illness played a causal role. So this means that mental illness was not necessarily the only thing that was making these mass violence to occur. So instead, they need to focus on dangerous people in society, such as your average person could be suffering with emotional distress or is mentally unstable without being diagnosed. This means anyone can commit a horrific crime. This shows that it's not always someone who has a mental disorder, but it could be someone who is going through an emotional distress at that time and just wants to get some revenge. So the last literature review is the lack of trust among American people. Studies have shown that individuals who experience gun violence trust less than those who haven't. The amount of distress that occurs is hard to recover from, especially for children as they have experienced gun victimization early on. This type of exposure can be devastating to anyone at any age, but for this type of event to be normalized in children's lives, show where the mentality of America is at. Schools have monthly lockdown procedures, and it is crucial children in today's society know, as it could risk their own lives. For conclusion, it is challenging to decide if guns or mental health is the narrator to violence that keeps occurring. Studies have shown that there needs to be a push to better mental health, but there also still needs a push for gun control. These violent outbreaks are starting with the American people, and each time the offender is getting younger. With the lack of trust amongst us all, it's hard to determine if there'll ever be peace in society again. Thank you for watching my presentation.